Welcome to the AI Podcast with your host, Apostle Danny Williams, Senior Pastor of the Citadel of Hope in Leesburg, Florida. This podcast is designed to educate, encourage, and empower the body of Christ. It seeks to convey truth, transparency, and testimony of the principles, practicals, and power through the presence of the Holy Spirit. Join now and be blessed by AI Podcast with me, your host, Apostle Danny Williams. Well, hello to all of our AI viewers. We're so delighted for you to join us, and thank you for allowing us into your space as you view another episode on this AI podcast. Of course, as you know, AI does not stand for artificial intelligence because we don't believe in anything artificial. We believe in the authentic here at the AI podcast. And in the studios here at the Citadel of Hope, I want to thank you for taking time to view this episode. I know you're going to be blessed. I know you're going to be empowered. And I want to encourage you to tag this link and paste it or whatever the case may be and share it with some others that you feel like would be blessed and spoken to by this particular episode. The last episode that we talked about or was generated, we started a conversation, a much needed conversation between my guest and I on a very crucial subject matter, the subject matter being the silent screams of strong men. Now, on the surface, that sounds like an oxymoron because one would not think of a strong man having silent screams. But yes, it is so, it is possible, and it is rampant in the body of Christ, in society, regardless of one's socioeconomic status, whether you're a blue-collar worker or white-collar worker, whether you live in the country or the city, whether you attend a country club or you attend a Boy Scout club. Silent screams exist. And so we're going to get into that conversation on this episode as well because it is so needed. And if you did not see the first episode, do yourself a favor and go back and watch the introduction to this very needed and crucial conversation. I have with me again an incredible man of God who epitomizes the essence of this particular conversation. He won't go through all the particulars that brought him to this point of being asked to share or to converse with me on this. You have to go back and watch the previous episode. But he is certainly a person who don't speak out of a sense of theory, but he speaks from a perspective of actual lifestyle. He is an elder at the Citadel of Hope, executive pastor, and certainly a son of this ministry. So we're delighted to have you with us again, Elder James Presley. And man, I'm telling you, as I begin to just muse over our last engagement, the first episode, it was just so powerful. And I felt it was impacting the listeners. And so at last episode, you were laying out the scenario of what brought you, at least at that point, from a moment of silent screams into a revelation of the love of God. It started you on this journey, not so much to eradicate silent screams from it, because as I said, silent screams stay with us. We all have those moments, those seasons. But you were getting ready to give a testimony on what was the transition for you. And so pick it up on this episode and we'll go further.
Yes, sir, Apostle. It's awesome to be here to continue the dialogue and the discussion, the much needed discussion on the topic of silent screams. To pick up where we left from the last episode, I was head coach of basketball. I was a DJJ probation officer for the area. I was mentoring students in the public school system, helping other coaches to get rooted in their aspirations of becoming either a teacher or a head coach in whatever sport of their desire. But I was sent to a conference where the Lord showed me who I really was. I wasn't any of those titles. I had some silent screams, and silent screams brings us to a place of brokenness. And this was my moment of brokenness. I was sitting at a restaurant in Tallahassee, Florida, where the conference was being conducted. I didn't know at the table, amongst about 10 to 12 people, there was an evangelist present. And they started talking about church. And I had a perception of church because of a negative experience that I had as a 7th grade student, where an individual's daughter had a 7th grade crush. And he didn't respond positively to me because I was a corner boy in his vocabulary. I was a person who hung on the corner. So when they started talking about church, I started talking about church and gave my perception. And the evangelist rose up. She said, "James, I've been watching you in the conference, and I believe that you are smart enough to get the job, to get the house. You're probably going to get the car. You're probably even going to get married and have a great family." And I was puffed up. I was like, yeah, the car, the house. And then she said, "But I want to ask you something." And she leaned into my spirit. She said, "What profits a man
Wow.
to gain this world and lose his soul?"
Wow.
And I was speaking in the first episode that at that time, my intent was to go back and do some criminal activity because I was hurting. I was literally angry. I was hurting.
Screaming, yeah,
I was
yeah.
screaming
Yeah.
out loud.
Right.
Well, I was getting ready to scream out loud. I was screaming silently because of these issues from the past. And when she said that to me, the environment shifted.
Wow.
I literally, Apostle, when we got ready to leave, I was sitting in the back of the vehicle that I was transported to the dinner. We were going back to the hotel. I was literally about to burst, like scream out loud. I was trying to hold it.
Wow.
And I was back there going, "Please hurry up and get back to this room," because I really didn't know what was going on with me. I just knew that I wanted to just scream and cry and just yell. Something had changed. So, Apostle, I was like, okay, we're almost there. We're almost about to get to this hotel.
Yes.
Great. And this driver pulls over to get gas. And I'm sitting in the back of that vehicle, and I want to just burst. But I'm in front of people, and I'm trying to keep the person that I had built present. And not this little boy that the evangelist had exposed. We get to the hotel room. I get to my door, and I unlock the door. And Apostle, when I unlocked that door,
Wow.
there was a light in that room
Wow.
that hit me, literally, and I fell. And when I fell, I started rolling on the floor.
Wow.
26 years old, all of the frustration, all of the issue, and I can remember begging Jesus to save me.
Wow.
I got saved in a hotel room in Tallahassee
Wow.
because an evangelist hit a screen.
Hit a screen. You know, that's so powerful because you just opened up. I know we have a certain path we were trying to navigate in this conversation, but we set the flow as the Holy Spirit because He knows exactly who's listening and He knows exactly what they need to hear. When you're talking, the thing that's just echoing my spirit, what you were experiencing on that van was a transition, right, from the screams of pain to the screams of purpose.
Wow.
The silent screams of your pain
Yes.
was trying to yell, keep screaming, while the silent scream of your purpose was screaming at you at the same time. And what do you do when you got these two extreme screaming? These two extreme just screaming in your spirit, man. Man, just and the fact that it was affirmed at the hotel room. We will come back to that there because I believe that that's going to be the remedy for so many persons that's going to be listening to that. Because there are a number of men that don't understand what's going on. They think they are discontented with where they are. They're discontented with their marriage. They're discontented with life. Discontented with job. When really what it is not discontentment that they're screaming. It's destiny.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's what caught you that day.
Yes.
But let's unpack this a little bit. So let's talk about some of the signs of these silent screams. So people understand, yeah, that's me. That's what's going on with me. And you can speak to them, or I can, just by no means an exhaustive list,
Amen.
but certainly an introduction, at least from a consideration prospect. What about the silent screams of fear? You think men deal with that?
Yes, sir. I think men deal a lot with fear, especially the fear of the unknown, because we kind of like to know step by step, piece by piece, how things are going to start, how things are going to end, and how things are going to be, and we try to manipulate to get to an expected end. We want to get to the end of it. We don't want the steps. Let's get to there it is. That's where we're supposed to be. Let's go there. So the fear of the unknown, when life happens and it throws us off of our path, off of our path, and now we have to come up with plan B. We're going to exhaust plan A because this was the plan, not knowing that at times life will throw us off of our game and we have to pivot. So learning how to pivot, that brings a great amount of uncertainty. And as a man, we want to have consistent, like life to be consistent and not pivoted.
I think also when the silent scream of fear is indicative of a fear of commitment. A lot of time when men, when it comes to commitment to a relationship, commitment to an assignment, they tend to think that commitment means self-abandonment. They don't want to lose themselves. I discovered many times over these 37 years of pastoring that men who have this fear of commitment, whether it's a relationship or whatever the case may be, that their scream is to remove themselves from that potential of commitment. It's like a guy who's afraid of commitment, dating a woman and everything. Then all of a sudden, at the last minute, when it looked like the relationship is going to shift to something serious, something is wrong. Something wrong with her, or he do something subconsciously that kind of disrupt the whole relationship. It goes on and on and on, and so his scream is to do something to derail the commitment. Well, really, the scream is, I'm afraid of commitment. So in order for me to not have to face the fact that I have a fear of commitment, let me derail this so I can blame you or the situation for the situation and not my fear of commitment.
Fear of dealing with what's right in front of us.
Right.
It shows us the signs are there, we ignore it, and then we do deflect. We deflect to something or someone else.
That's good. I like
because
that
we
word.
don't want
Yeah.
to deal with what's right in front of us.
Even the fear of a conversation, right? The issue comes up, silent screen is, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. So we deflect.
We deflect.
And so the wife or the person want to talk about A. I don't want to talk about A, so let me pull up B. And always deflect to B. And so what happens is the silent scream of A stays there because that's so powerful. What about frustration? You think that there's a silent scream of frustration?
Absolutely, and that's where I found myself. When I was talking about the fact that I had lost the person that I was literally living for. Didn't know that I was. I thought it was natural for a son or a boy to want to be a father to his mother.
Wow, that's good.
So because my father wasn't there, I wanted to do some things for her that my father should have been doing. Instead of being a son, I was trying to be a father.
Wow.
And I never told her the things that I was going to do for her. So I didn't even know she would even like the things that I wanted to do for her. But anything that she didn't have because of the sacrifices she made, I wanted to be the person to make her happy.
Yeah.
To make her happy, to make her feel as if I was in a relationship with her as a father. Like my father didn't do it, so I'm going to step up here and do it.
And the frustration of not being able to do that just escalated.
Not even having the capacity to do it.
Wow. Wow. So there's some
Sitting
men
here
who deal with it.
dreaming up something as a man
Right.
that we don't even have the capacity to do, causing a silent scream because we made this happen in our mind.
Our minds, right.
And now we're trying to make something happen. We haven't had a conversation with an individual that we're trying to make it happen for. My mother probably would have told me, boy, I am fine. But in my mind,
Right.
she was going to be fine in this house that I was going to build for her. So I went on living life for that moment to present her with a key to our house.
Wow.
But Apostle, there's a friend of mine. That frustration led me all the way to Germany. When I graduated out of college, I flew to Germany for basketball to build a house, not because I wanted to play basketball in Germany. And got to Germany and frustration hit. I'm over there straight out of college, no money, and I'm stranded in Germany. I'm literally stranded. The person who recruited me as an agent to go to Germany flew back to New York in the middle of the night. I didn't know he was gone.
Wow.
So my one contact in Germany left and went to New York. A 16-year-old German knocks on the door of the hotel and tells me that I have to go to his house to live because my agent has left.
Wow.
And I'm stuck in Germany. But there was a friend of mine, I'm going to make this story short. There was a friend of mine that went to the military and they stationed him in Karlsruhe, Germany. I was in Kaiserslautern, Germany. He was in Karlsruhe on a military base. And he had given me his number to contact him to party, but I had to contact him to live. Wow. So I was stranded. But when I got back to the States through this friend, that's a story for another episode, preferably. But I was in the vehicle in my hometown, frustrated because my dream was over. I knew I was done with basketball, and how in the world am I going to build a house? And I'm in my friend's car. He's a pastor now. He's a pastor in Wildwood. He coaches in my hometown right now, and me and him are having a frustrating moment. And this is what this 22-year-old friend of mine said to me, I'm crying about the house, I'm crying about the frustration. He says, if you want to make your mom happy, the mom that I know who raised you, if you want to make your mom happy, give your life to Jesus.
Wow. Well, that definitely. Every time, it seemed to me, every time you was in a screaming moment, there was a voice of Jesus
There's
speaking
a
out.
voice of Jesus speaking in the screen.
There's the we can go on and on other rejection. Some men scream, have silent scream from rejection. We oftentimes talk about uh, women who deal with rejection, but men deal with rejection. And what they tend to do, if they have rejection in one season of their life or one relationship of their life,
Mm-hmm.
the screams from that rejection tend to follow them until they can identify, put their finger on it, and not spend the rest of their life, looking through a rearview mirror, but looking through a windshield. I think some men deal with life disappointment, like you talk about, all of these goals and aspiration,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I think a lot of men, when they find themselves where they feel like they've had to settle,
Mm-hmm.
right? They had to settle,
Mm-hmm.
and I've known guys, especially young guys, who had these great aspirations of coming out of high school and going on to play college and hopefully the pros, and they get to college, they don't work out, and
Mm-hmm.
they find themselves back on the same streets where they came from, and a lot of them never recover from that type of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to resort to some of the shady aspects of life, because that's a scream. And people talk about, why are you on drugs? Why are you drinking? Why are you this? Why are you that? And they spend a whole lifetime uh, looking at what the scream is, as opposed to trying to understand why they're screaming. And family family provision, is another one, right? That men who scream and they feel like they are not able to provide for their family or for themselves at the level that they thought and anticipated. Uh, I found that man, when I got married, and I tell this story, you heard it, and the day after I got married, and I woke up from whatever, and I leave that right there, and I looked at my wife the next morning, and the first thought come to my mind is, oh my God, what have I done? Because here is someone now that I've got to take care of for the rest of my life. Man, that's a daunting when you're a real man. And some men, they scream. Their scream is from that point on, they don't know to unconsciously do things to set things up so they can get themselves out of that particular level of responsibility. I want you to speak to the last one, not from your perspective, but just to kind of help some men understand the feeling of inferiority. Men feeling inferior, a silent scream that can come from there. What does that say to you when you hear that?
Well, to be inferior to someone, oftentimes for men, means that we don't feel as if we fit
Okay.
in the environment.
Yeah.
We don't feel as if we belong. To be inferior, we feel less than when we really are not less than. But to scream about being inferior causes us to shy away from who it is we really are. So being inferior, of course, the silent scream is, how do I fit in this space? When coming into a new space, no matter who we think we are before we get there, once we're in the room, if we don't feel as if there's a space for us in the room, then of course we run, we shy away from that space or from that
That's true.
situation. So the silent scream of being inferior means that we never really get planted where we need to get planted because
Right.
we're running.
Right.
We're running because we
That's true.
feel uncomfortable in an inferior space.
And that's so true and so powerful. I've also experienced that many times when men feel inferior in their environment, as you alluded to, in that space, one of their screams is to belittle or to demean the person who is in that space that makes them feel inferior. Well, like in sports, right? A lot of times I smile and laugh sometimes when I call these guys the Monday morning quarterbacks. You know, they always tell me, man, he should have did that, he should have did that. It's easy to second guess someone as if to say this is what they should have done when you're not in a position to prove out your point. I think that's one of the things that men scream at. There are a lot of men who have a very judgmental and a very antagonistic perspective of men, other men who they deem to be or feel like are successful.
You know, Apostle, it's very difficult and sometimes kept silent to lead as an African American leader.
That's true.
It's difficult because in certain spaces, things sometimes are set up so that inferiority and that complex of inferiority, which dates back, of course, for our throughout our history as from day one, to feel inferior because individuals are setting things up to make you feel inferior because
That's true.
of envy, especially if they notice that there's a gift or a talent on you or grace on you, or jealousy.
Right.
And so to make sure, and it's kind of complex to explain, but I'll put it like this. I was the beloved leader of a certain school, and as long as I was the disciplinary person, because we are seen as disciplinary individuals, especially men,
Right.
in leadership in my field. But then I became the principal. And the moment that I transitioned from an assistant principal to a principal, the person in charge, the CEO of the school, the visionary of the school, certain individuals that were a cheerleader to me as an administrator, for some reason, and I don't know why, just could not flow with me being a visionary of the school.
Wow.
And that gets in your psyche when you're trying to lead. And as an African American leader, you feel as though the deck is stacked against you. So you
All
build
kind of communities.
all kind of communities. So
Okay.
you build a complex of I'm not going to trust.
Isolation.
I'm going to
becomes-
isolate myself,
Right. Right.
and I'm going to depend on me to get this done.
right.
I'm going to make sure that I succeed because these people want me to fail. And that's the game that's in the mind, because in leadership, you can't do it by yourself. But because you feel inferior, or someone or something has made you feel inferior, you shut it down. Good people who want to help you can't get in because something or someone has made you feel inferior. So you've shut down any potential assistance, you've shut down any potential help, and you say, by hook or crook, I'm gonna make this happen because you want to prove
Right.
them
right.
wrong.
Right. Right.
You want to prove people wrong who made you feel as if you could not do it, or you were inferior to do it. Where some would get a pass to grow. You're expected to already have it together, and that's where you start feeling inferior because the truth be told, you don't have it all together.
Now you said something there. You said something that's so powerful, and we definitely going to take up this on the next episode. You don't want to miss it, but you said something that I think, as it relates to, and I hesitate to use the word as it relates to categories. People don't recognize gifted, successful, talented people have a completely different silent screen, than perhaps other folks. because there is the issue of trust. I noticed that when you talk about silent screen for myself, when you were talking, man, it was like you were my therapist in that moment, because it just resonates to me. There are times in my life, right, as a pastor, that I go through those. My silent screen for me is I ever get to the place, or I get to those places where I feel like I have so many takers around me. What you're saying, give me this, do this for me. You ought to do this. And most of my salvation life, since I got saved, has been like that. Where people always have expected me. No, you need to do this. You need to do that. You ought to be committed to this. You ought to be here. You ought to go there. You ought to stay with. And I scream for a moment, right? Then I inhale. Then I move on, and then that recurring season of takers. And I'm finding out, especially in the midst of an altar revival that that the Citadel is in. I found out, Elder Presley, that that's what was happening to me. That I tend to, as you said, isolate myself. I'm stepping away from, because right now, my scream is I'm not going to let anybody else be a taker for me in a season. I may show back up, but right now, you know, I'm not gonna be your ATM for your taking. And so that's so powerful.
That is true. Sometimes when we're leading, we wake up. We love the people. We love the act of leading. But sometimes you just want to take a breath. Just sometimes you just need a breath.
That's true.
But the problem is that you cannot delegate leadership. You can't give it to someone else.
That's true.
You can't delegate it. So because you can't give it away, you can delegate assignments,
Right.
but you cannot delegate leadership.
That's true.
So you're always in leadership,
Whether you're there or
whether
not.
you're there or not, whether you went and isolated yourself and put yourself in another place or a space.
Don't leave it. Right.
You cannot delegate fathership.
Right.
You cannot delegate husbandship.
That's true.
You cannot delegate leadership.
Oh, that's good.
As a man,
Right.
we're called to leadership.
Right.
And sometimes the ship of leaders sink
Listen.
and we scream.
Right. But that's so powerful. We're going to pick this up next time, because the issue then becomes, right, that even though physically your scream is to physically remove yourself, but people don't realize that you don't get it. You don't tap out.
You can't tap out.
You and I don't wake up tomorrow or Monday and say to our wives, "I'm not going to be a husband today.
Not today.
I'm not going to be you don't say to our children, no, go to somebody to be your father today, because today I'm not going to be a father. I'm just going to be me." It don't happen like that. At your lowest point, at your highest point, there is no tapping out. Now, that sounds kind of overwhelming to some of you that want to scream right now. But I'm telling you, if we're going to get into the positiveness of scream, what it can do for you, because all is not lost. All is not hopeless. All is not overwhelmed. Yes, those things hit you. The screams are loud. They're boisterous. But I'm telling you, as Elder Presley just alluded to it myself, but you got to know how to manage that. Don't let the scream of your pain speak to you louder than the screams of your purpose. There are two voices that's cheering you on, one to defeat and one to destiny. And you got to decide. There are a number of you that are men that are listening to this AI. There's some of you that are wives, or fiancés, or girlfriends, or daughters, and you are dealing with screaming men right now. And you don't know what to do, but the Lord is giving you help. And we're going to talk about how to help them in their season of silent scream. But thank you for watching us on this episode of the AI Podcast. You want to tune in. You want to tune in every time you get the notification. If you are not getting the notification or you have not been getting it, go to our YouTube page. It's scrolling across there, or you'll get the notification when we're coming on. Follow us on Facebook, and you're going to be notified because this is the kind of subject matter that perhaps you and the significant male in your life can listen to individually and then come around a cup of Starbucks coffee and have a conversation. Well, until I see you until the next episode, I want you to know, as we always say, the Lord has come to do you well. You have been listening to the AI Podcast with Apostle Danny Williams. Tune in each Sunday evening at 6 p.m. for relevant revelation. Look for us on Facebook, YouTube, and upcoming platforms. Until next time, remember, the Lord has come to do you well. Bye-bye.